Ladies and gentlemen, let me speak to you today about a powerful force that resides within us all, anger. Now, when we think of anger, we often think of destruction of uncontrolled rage. But anger, when understood properly, can be a powerful tool for transformation. It is not just an emotion, it is a catalyst. The question is not whether anger exists in you, the question is, what will you do with it? Anger has the potential to change the course of your life, to break chains that have held you down for years, to challenge systems that have oppressed you. But here's the truth: anger, in its raw form, is dangerous. Without control, it can destroy relationships, dreams, and even your future. But if you channel that anger, if you direct it towards a purpose, if you allow it to fuel your desire for change, you will not only see transformation in your life, but in the lives of those around you. Anger is not the enemy, it is the mismanagement of anger that leads to destruction. My friend, you must get angry enough to change. Get angry enough to refuse to live in mediocrity. Get angry enough to break free from the limitations that society has placed on you. Get angry enough to challenge the status quo. You must be angry enough to rise above the forces that try to hold you down. Now, let me be clear, this is not a call to mindless rage. This is a call to righteous anger. The anger that burns deep within you because you know you are not living in the fullness of your purpose. You know that something is wrong and you refuse to accept it. You refuse to stay silent while injustice prevails. You refuse to let fear dictate your future. But understand, this anger, when left unchecked, can destroy what it was meant to build. It can blind you to wisdom and peace. It can make you a slave to your own emotions. This is why I urge you, control your anger, or it will control you. Let your anger drive you towards action, not reaction. Let it push you into alignment with your God-given purpose. Let it ignite a fire in your soul that propels you forward in faith. This is how you turn frustration into faith-driven action. This is how you break through barriers that would otherwise hold you back. Anger is a signal. It is telling you that something must change. Do not use it as an excuse for destruction, but as a foundation for creation. Use it to build, to uplift, to transform. Use it to make the world around you better. Because, beloved, when you get angry enough to change, you become an unstoppable force. So I challenge you today, be angry enough to change. Be angry enough to rise above every obstacle. Be angry enough to become the person God has called you to be. Let your anger be the fuel for your destiny. The world is waiting for you to change it. And I believe with every fiber of my being that you can. Anger is a tool, not a weapon. Too often we see anger as something negative, something to be avoided or suppressed. We are taught from a young age to avoid showing anger, to keep it under control, to suppress it, because it can lead to destruction. But what if I told you that anger in its true form is not the enemy? What if I told you that anger could be the very thing that propels you to greatness, that ignites the changes you've been praying for? You see, anger is an energy. It is a force that, when properly channeled, can be used to create. It's not inherently bad. It's what you do with it that defines its impact. Just as fire can be destructive if left unchecked, it can also provide warmth, cook food, and fuel industry when harnessed correctly. Anger, like fire, is the same way. It is a tool that can help you build, help you grow, and help you reach your God-given potential. When you feel anger, it is a signal, a wake-up call that something is wrong, something needs to change. It shows you that there is a gap between where you are and where you know you should be. That gap is the discomfort, the frustration, the anger. And that anger can either push you to destroy, or it can propel you to do what is necessary to change your situation. When used as a tool, anger motivates you to take action. It creates the drive to challenge the things that are not aligned with your purpose. Think about a time in your life when you were angry enough to take action. Maybe it was when you saw injustice, when something unfair happened, or when you realized that your dreams were slipping away. That anger stirred something within you. It sparked a fire, a determination to change things. That fire, if channeled correctly, can fuel your passion, your perseverance, and your willingness to step into your Anger is an invitation. It is inviting you to confront the issues in your life, to address the things that are not right, to make a stand. It's not about letting that anger control you or harm others. It's about using that anger to fuel positive change. The key is to see anger not as something to avoid or fear, but as an energy that can drive you forward, moving you toward the transformation that God has in store for you. Anger drives change through purpose. When we allow anger to consume us without purpose, it leads to destruction, chaos, and regret. But when we channel anger with a clear and focused purpose, it becomes a powerful force for transformation. Anger, in its raw form, is a reactive emotion. But when aligned with purpose, it becomes a catalyst for proactive change. There are moments in life when we feel a deep sense of injustice, frustration, or dissatisfaction. In those moments, anger arises not as an isolated emotion, but as a response to the gaps we see between our current reality and the world we believe is possible. When we look around and see corruption, inequality, or oppression, anger is the natural response to the brokenness of the world. But it doesn't stop there. That anger, when focused, can drive us to work toward making things right. It can fuel the desire for change, pushing us to confront issues that others might ignore or accept. When anger is directed toward a meaningful purpose, it compels us to act. It fuels the drive to push through obstacles, to keep moving forward even when the road is difficult. Anger with purpose is a force that doesn't tire, that doesn't settle, that doesn't accept mediocrity. It awakens a vision of what can be, rather than focusing on what is. It's an internal compass pointing toward a higher calling, toward a greater good. It demands that we rise above the ordinary, that we challenge the systems and structures that limit progress, and that we push ourselves to become more than we have ever been before. Purpose gives anger direction. Without purpose, anger is merely an emotional outburst that can spiral out of control. But when it is connected to a deep sense of why, it becomes a powerful driving force. It helps you focus on what truly matters and forces you to ask the hard questions. What are you willing to stand for? What are you willing to fight for? What change are you willing to bring about in the world? Anger, when driven by purpose, compels us to take risks, to speak out, to advocate for the voiceless, and to work toward a future that aligns with our core values. The beauty of purpose-driven anger is that it is sustainable. It is not a fleeting emotion. It is rooted in something deeper. And when it is guided by purpose, it pushes us toward progress, toward improvement, and toward fulfilling the mission we were created to accomplish. Control your anger, or it will control you. This is one of the most important truths you can understand about the emotion of anger. When anger is not managed, when it is allowed to grow unchecked, it becomes a dangerous force that can wreak havoc in your life. Left uncontrolled, it will dictate your decisions, your relationships, and your destiny. The consequences of uncontrolled anger are often irreversible, and the impact can be far-reaching, affecting not just you, but also the people around you.
Anger is a powerful emotion, but it is not the emotion itself that is the problem. It's how we respond to it, how we handle it, and how we choose to express it that determines its impact. When we allow our anger to control us, we lose sight of our purpose, and we react in ways that are often destructive. Words are said in the heat of anger that we cannot take back. Decisions are made in the moment that we later regret, and relationships are damaged irreparably because we failed to control the emotion that was meant to serve us. To control your anger, you must first recognize that it is within your power to choose how you respond to it. Anger does not have to lead to outbursts or actions that destroy everything in its path. You have the ability to take a step back, to pause, and to choose a different path. This requires self-awareness and emotional discipline. When anger rises within you, take a moment to assess the situation, to understand why you are angry, and to choose a response that aligns with your values and your purpose. You must learn to process your anger, to release it in healthy ways that will not damage your relationships or hinder your progress. Anger can be released through physical activity, creative expression, or through thoughtful reflection. When you take control of your anger, you begin to see it not as an enemy, but as a tool that can motivate you to act in ways that move you closer to your goals. Control doesn't mean suppression. It means mastery. It means recognizing when anger arises, understanding its roots, and responding with wisdom and clarity. Anger becomes a destructive force when we react out of impulse, when we allow it to control our actions. But when we master our anger, we use it to fuel purpose-driven decisions that move us forward rather than hold us back. When we take control, we become the masters of our own emotions and no longer slaves to them. Transform frustration into faith-driven action. Frustration is a common emotion that many of us experience when we are confronted with obstacles, delays, or circumstances that seem beyond our control. It arises when we feel stuck, when progress seems slow, or when we realize that our efforts are not yielding the results we expect. In these moments, it's easy to give in to despair, to feel helpless, and to allow frustration to dictate our emotions and actions. But frustration does not have to be a dead end. In fact, it can be the very fuel that propels us toward action that is driven not by despair, but by faith. Faith is the foundation upon which we build our lives. It is the belief in things hoped for, the assurance of things not yet seen. When frustration sets in, it's a reminder that our journey is not yet complete, that the promise is still ahead of us. Rather than allowing frustration to discourage you, it should remind you of the greater purpose at work. The key is to transform that frustration into faith-driven action. Faith-driven action is not passive. It is active, determined, and focused on the belief that things will change, even when the current situation suggests otherwise. Frustration often arises when we are faced with setbacks or when things don't go according to plan. But in those moments, faith calls us to believe that the current situation is temporary, that the obstacles we face are not the end of the story, but a part of the process. When frustration arises, it is a signal that you are being called to go deeper, to press forward, and to trust in the unseen hand of God that is guiding you. Faith-driven action requires a mindset shift. Instead of seeing frustration as a roadblock, you begin to see it as an opportunity for growth. It is in the moments of struggle that we are refined, that our character is developed, and that our faith is strengthened. When frustration strikes, let it push you to take action in ways that align with your purpose. Let it ignite the fire to keep moving forward, to find new solutions, and to trust that every challenge you face is ultimately for your benefit. When you transform frustration into faith-driven action, you change your perspective. What was once a source of discouragement becomes a stepping stone on your journey toward greater things. Anger is a signal, not an excuse. We often mistake anger for a reason to justify negative behavior or destructive actions. Anger, however, is not the justification to lash out or to let our emotions take the reins. It is, instead, a signal, a powerful indicator that something is not right, something needs to be addressed, something must change. When you feel anger rising within you, it is not an excuse to destroy, it is an invitation to look deeper, to understand the root cause, and to take responsible action. Every time you feel angry, you must pause and ask yourself, why am I angry? That question is crucial, because anger is rarely a simple, isolated emotion. It is usually the result of deeper issues, unmet needs, a sense of injustice, frustration, or a perceived threat to your values or well-being. Anger points to something within you that needs attention. It signals that there is a gap between what is happening and what should be happening. It calls you to examine the situation, to look beyond the surface, and to identify what is truly triggering the emotion. Instead of allowing your anger to define your response, you must take responsibility for it. The anger is yours, and how you choose to respond to it determines your future. Too often, people use anger as an excuse to justify bad decisions, rash actions, or hurtful words. They use it as a way to release their frustration without taking the time to process the emotion or consider the consequences of their actions. But this is not the path to growth or transformation. Anger, when viewed as a signal, serves as an opportunity to step back and gain clarity. It tells you that something is wrong, but it also provides an opening for growth. It challenges you to think critically about the situation and to seek solutions. It asks you to examine your values and boundaries, and to take action that aligns with your integrity and purpose. Anger doesn't demand reckless behavior, it demands careful, measured responses. When you view anger as a signal, it changes how you approach conflict, injustice, or frustration. Instead of reacting impulsively, you begin to respond thoughtfully. You use the energy of anger to fuel constructive action that aligns with your principles. This transformation of perspective turns anger into a powerful tool for positive change, not a destructive force that undermines your progress. A righteous anger ignites transformation. When anger is fueled by a sense of justice, a moral compass, and a deep desire to bring about positive change, it becomes a driving force for transformation. Righteous anger is different from ordinary frustration or rage. It is rooted in a deep sense of right and wrong. It is the anger that rises when we see injustice, inequality, or oppression, and it is the kind of anger that compels us to take action to correct the wrongs we witness in the world. This is not an anger that destroys, it is an anger that builds, that challenges, and that pushes us toward growth and change. Righteous anger is powerful because it aligns with a higher purpose. It does not come from selfish desires or personal grievances. It comes from a heart that is broken over the things that break God's heart. It is an anger that refuses to accept the status quo, that refuses to remain silent in the face of injustice, and that demands that we rise up and do something about it. This kind of anger is not passive, it is active and purposeful. It motivates us to take a stand, to speak out, and to take the steps necessary to create the change we desire to see in the world. When we experience righteous anger, it should move us towards solutions, not towards more problems. It should lead us to action that is thoughtful, strategic, and effective. This anger is not the kind that makes us act out of impulse or vengeance. It is the kind that makes us consider the long-term impact of our actions and to approach the situation with wisdom and discernment. Righteous anger compels us to rise above the emotions of the moment and to think clearly about how we can make a difference. One of the most powerful aspects of righteous anger is its ability to unite people. When we see a cause or a situation that stirs our hearts and ignites our passion, we are often not alone. Righteous anger resonates with others who feel the same way, and together we can create a movement, a collective energy that drives change. This unity, born out of righteous anger, has the potential to dismantle systems of oppression, to challenge norms, and to inspire a generation to act for the common good. Righteous anger does not lead to destruction, it leads to the rebuilding of what has been broken. It doesn't tear down without purpose, it tears down in order to build something better, something more aligned with God's will and His vision for justice and peace in the world. It is an anger that is motivated by love and driven by a commitment to creating a world that reflects the values of truth, fairness, and equity. When used rightly, righteous anger can be a tool that brings about the most profound and lasting transformations. In the end, anger is not something to fear or suppress, but a powerful force that can drive us to transformation when harnessed with purpose. It can ignite change, fuel action, and challenge us to rise above the circumstances that seek to hold us down. But remember, the key is controlled channeling that anger into purposeful, faith-driven actions that align with our values and our higher calling. Let your anger be a tool, not a weapon, a signal, not an excuse. When you embrace righteous anger, you become a force for good, ready to create the change this world so desperately needs.